Hello, 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 and welcome to episode number 110 of the Teen Talk Skating podcast, which is insane to me. But happy March. Before we get started, make sure you follow, share, and like the Teen Talk Skating podcast because they tell me to say that, even though I sound extremely cringe when I say that. I know last week I said I was recovering from being sick, and now I worry that I got sick again. Honestly, I feel like everyone I know is sick or like at least coughing or like getting up to get a tissue every 5 seconds. That's cool. So like I don't know, like it truly feels like everyone is sick and nobody's safe at this point, right? Like everyone has been sick. So like I'm kind of sick too. You know what I mean? Like it's not even like it's the new normal. Like at the new being sick is just the new normal. And yeah, we're hoping that March gets better, but no new intro stuff yet. I know it's been 2 months. Yeah, I have been so busy. I'm telling you guys, I have been so dang busy and I literally don't even know. Like, I'm gonna get everything together, guys. But school has literally taken up half, like 90% of my life. Like the other 10% of my life, I barely have time to like read a book. You know what I mean? Like I just want to read. I'm sorry. But I hope you guys are all doing well. Happy March, obviously. This episode is coming out the day before International Women's Day, so happy International Women's Day, of course. Anything else? And yeah, I'm super glad to be recording on this, later, the last part of the season. Definitely tired from all the skating, but yeah, I don't know. Let's get started with our program of the week. Okay, everybody, so this is the program of the week section, of course, where I talk to you about the program of the week, in case you didn't know that. Anyway, the program the week this week is actually a Paris program. I know, it's crazy. What happened to you, Van Gogh? Yeah, but this is Tara Kane and Danny O'Shea and their 2016 U.S. Nationals free skate. The music is The Music of the Night by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Charles Hart, performed by Barbara Streisand and Michael Crawford, of course, from The Phantom of the Opera. And honestly, I forgot this program kind of existed, and then it got recommended to me. Actually, the entire 2016 Nationals free skate for the pairs got recommended to me, and this was one of the last skates. I think it was the last skate actually of that night. And I was like, dang, I kind of forgot this program existed, but this program is actually really, really nice. This music is very slow. I wouldn't say there's a big build up to any like big climax, any big musical crash or anything. This music is quite very operatic, of course, the Phantom of the Opera. Very light, very elegant, and I feel like the skating in this matches that. And sometimes I feel like pair skating gets so scary that you need this calming effect of the music to help you. But this program starts off very, very beautifully with their twist. Cherokee does an arm above her head during the twist, which is a really beautiful position in my opinion. See, I'm sick. What else? Very nice triple style cow side by sides. I like how they kind of delay, both of them kind of delay their jumps. They take a bit of time preparing for those jumps. And so I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of people have criticism of that, like telegraphing a jump where you can kind of tell that they're going to do a jump. But I don't know. Sometimes like that preparation looks so satisfying when they do land the jump and they land the side by side triple style cows perfectly in this program. The throw triple style cow is also such a notable part of this program, which is the next element. But he throws her and she completes all three rotations so insanely fast that you can see that she kind of has like she's super high in the air and she has time to just like settle, like just sit there for a bit, and then she lands the jump very beautifully. It's very exciting. Some of the lifts in this program are also very nice. The very first lift is quite slow, quite matches the music super duper well. The catch foot position is beautiful. She's kind of looking up there, kind of like a jewel to be for the lights to shine on. Danny O'Shea has such a stable position to hold her. I think that's beautiful. Double axels go really well. The second half of the program is nice. There's this choreographic sequence moment where he's kind of skating. They're both kind of skating backwards, and then he kind of holds her up in a sideways position and kind of crouches down. I don't know. Very interesting angle dynamic over there as well. My favorite part of the program probably is the throw triple lutz though, because this entrance into the throw triple lutz is so cool. So first off, she is skating in front of him, and she is kind of doing a back spiral. He then catches the spiral, he then catches her foot and then turns her upside down. And then they both turn around, and while he's still holding her, she does not put a foot down at all. then they do the throw triplets, and it lands beautifully. So it's just such an intricate position and transition into the throw triplets that it's just so beautiful to watch. And then the final lifts in the program also as well, speeding up with the music at the end of the program, beautiful. The pair combination spin is beautiful. Just the very classic standard positions in that pair combination spin done extremely well. And so if you're looking for a program that just feels satisfying, it just feels like they're hitting element by element by element, this is such a good program to watch in my opinion. So yeah, go check it out. Tara Kane, Danny O'Shea, their 2016 National Streetscape to the Music of the Night by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Charles Hart, performed by Barbara Streisand and Michael Crawford from The Phantom of the Opera. But let's head to our main episode. Okay, everybody, so it's time for our main episode, and I'd like to start off the main episode by asking you a question. Okay, which figure skater have you just seen everywhere and for the last, like, I don't know, month or so, or like at least the last 2 weeks? Like, which figure skater have you just seen everywhere? Like, the internet is just filled with this one figure skater, and literally everyone keeps talking to me about this one figure skater. I'm like, what the heck happened? And that, of course, is Miss Alysa Liu. Of the United States, skating in women's singles, and so this episode is actually like just about Alyssa Liu because I just think that this is kind of a phenomenon, I feel like, that has to be studied, that has to be analyzed, and I'm just super I care so much about my sport. I'm like, this is such an interesting, I don't know, development in the history of figure skating. I feel like I genuinely don't know where this has kind of come from. It just feels very unprecedented, and I hope that people, I don't know. There's a lot to analyze, and I kind of want to talk about two kind of things in this episode. Half of the episode is kind of about the story of Alyssa Liu and my opinion of the story of Alyssa Liu, and like how other people have perceived her story and what I remember kind of her career, because I feel very superior. Okay, I feel so superior because some people have just got onto the Alyssa hype train. Some people just discovered her Leve program or her Donna Summer program or her Pink Pantheress exhibition gala. Some people have just discovered it, and I feel so superior because I've known about Alyssa's career since 2021, I think, when I first started watching figure skating and back in 2021. And so I feel like a long-time fan. I feel like a long-time, like, knowledgeable expert, and I don't know, I feel very superior. I know I sound so selfish and self-absorbed, and that's kind of true when it comes to figure skating because nobody knows as much as I do, at least in, like, my friend group and, like, the general people I know. Like, excuse me. I feel so superior, kind of, because I just know. I know, like, guys, like, I've been here forever. I've been on this train forever, and we're all going to the same place, but I've been sitting here a little longer than you. But yeah, so like I said, this is an episode just about Alyssa Liu, and of course I'll talk about other skaters at the time as well. But the first half is being her story, kind of the history of Alyssa Liu and her career in figure skating at least. And then also kind of an analysis of it and what it means for figure skating if we can hold on to this popularity, if other skaters have this opportunity, how she has like been seen as the one who has challenged the norms of figure skating, things like that. That's kind of in the analysis section. And honestly, let me write some of those points down. So, challenges norms. Can figure skating hold on to this popularity? To this popularity. Just, unprecedented era. I don't know. Anyway, let's get started with an anecdote. Okay, so I am part of a club at my school, and I'm what I was, or I still kind of am, working on this post for my school. And so this week I went around, and the post is for Women's History Month, and so I have been asking people who is a Asian woman who inspires you, and everybody has either said their mom or Alyssa Liu. Like, genuinely, I have heard, maybe a few K-pop stars here and there, but it's either been mom or Alyssa. Like, that's kind of crazy, and honestly, that's kind of true. Like, who else is an Asian woman who inspires people? Like Alyssa, of course, she's been in the media for like a whole month, it feels like, and she's just been everywhere. And so I just feel like that proves to the point where like Alyssa Liu has become a cultural phenomenon around people I know, I guess. Like, and even people I don't know about Alyssa Liu. Like before, like nobody in my friend group was following Alyssa, and now I think like 15 people follow Alyssa on Instagram, and it shows that. And I just think that's crazy. Like people who like have never even watched figure skating in their life, or maybe they just know me as that kid who watches figure skating and nobody else wants to watch the sport. Those kind of people suddenly know about Alyssa and suddenly know about her Leve program, or the fact that her cool hair, her triple lutz, triple loop, stuff like that. I'm like, dang. And so even in where I live, and I'm telling you, nobody watches figure skating where I live. I'm just shocked that Alyssa has kind of spread this far, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's kind of get started into the two main things I was going to head into this episode. Not head into this episode, but talk about in this episode. So, Alyssa, right? And I want to start with Alyssa's career, like, not in her personal life, but kind of in her career when, oh my gosh, excuse me. Her career when she was younger, and let's see, her career when she was younger, right? She was kind of the it, not the it, but the it. Let's go back to 2018, right? Let's go back to 2018 because she competed at 2019 U.S. Nationals in the senior category. She was already national junior champion, and she was coming into the senior nationals with not much reputation, honestly. Not much reputation, not much, I don't know. People didn't really know, right? People didn't really know. Oh my gosh, excuse me. The focus on the time I feel like was really on Brady Tennell, Mariah Bell as well. A couple of the U.S. women at the time that were, competing on the senior ranks, competing in the international ranks. But this girl right here, Alyssa here, at the age of 13, of course, at the age of 13, she becomes U.S. national champion. Not only that, but she landed a triple axel at US Nationals, and she landed 3 triple axels actually that year. So it wasn't even just 1 triple axel, it was actually 2 triple axels. And yeah, um which is crazy, right? Which is actually crazy because you gotta think this 13-year-old is doing triple axels. Like, it was a shock. It was a shock. And for her to come into her first senior nationals and do this kind of performance and do this kind of crazy thing where she landed 3 triple axels and one in the short, 2 in the free. And she landed all these other triples and she landed all these other jumps and they were all pretty clean. Was crazy. No, genuinely, it was crazy, right? Because who thinks, like, no, genuinely, like, I can't stress this enough, but when this new junior star comes up and she's 13 years old and she has not competed internationally on the junior level, it's crazy that she kind of came in and won the senior national title. Oh my gosh, excuse me. And so that was her last competition actually of the season because she wasn't even age eligible to be a junior or a senior internationally. I will say part of the criticism at the time, I wasn't watching skating at this time, but definitely part of the criticism was that she was so technically prowess, so technically skilled and focused that the component score wasn't as high. The component score definitely wasn't as high compared to other skaters at the time, like Brady Tennell, Mariah Bell, etc., who were competing at this event as well. Was Amory Glenn competing at this event? I think she was. But anyway, her artistic side, the presentation, the audience wasn't as high. She was young. A lot of people kind of attribute that to not being as experienced, not having the best choreographer. But technically, she was, prowess, right? And you have to think as well in this international context that, the Russians, right? That was the main thing. It's always about being the best country in the world. And I think a lot of people automatically saw Alyssa and the community was like, okay, she's the next big thing in the US. She's the next big thing, and she is going to be the key to beat the Russians. And the Russians at the time included, we had to think about the Russians at the time on the junior level. People like Kamila Valieva, which of course ended off very poorly in her career. But I will, we will move on from that. But kind of seen as the, oh my gosh, excuse me, kind of seen as the next big thing to compete against the Russians and maybe bring some medals. And in a couple of years, she would have, been age eligible for the Olympics. And you got to think at the Olympics, at this kind of level, if she can do these triple axels and maybe even a secret quad here and there, you got to think that she could be on the Olympic podium. She could do this. She could be the next big U.S. lady. She could win the next Olympic medal since 2006, etc. And you have to think that those kind of thoughts were definitely so real at the time within the community when they saw Alysa Liu kind of burst out on the senior level at nationals. And so again, she wasn't given any, competitions to go to at the rest of the season. But in 2019, she was finally eligible at the Junior Grand Prix, and so she ended up going to the Junior Grand Prix, her first Junior Grand Prix in the Junior Grand Prix. Um, the Junior Grand Prix was in Lake Placid that year, her first one, and she won the gold medal there. And of course, she landed a triple axel in the program. And right, she did fall on her second triple axel attempt in that program, but in that free skate, she landed a quad lutz, right? Because we love some interesting wow. She landed a quad lutz. She landed a quad lutz, which is a jump, right? That is crazy that the majority of skaters are not competing. That quads. They were seen as like no, that's not gonna happen. And so she actually became the first female skater. I'm quoting from this from Wikipedia. Became the first female skater to complete. Sorry, a quadruple jump and a triple axel in the same program in a competition. And that quad was a quad lutz, right? The second most difficult quad behind the quad axel, which only one man has done in the world. And so the fact that she did a quad lutz, again, at the age of 14, I believe, was shocking. Shocking, right? Shocking. Okay. And so she won that event, and then she went to Poland at the Junior Grand Prix in Poland, and she won that event as well, getting the quad lutz done, a triple axel done, um, and a triple axel double toe loop done, etc. And she was first there and first overall, and she went to the Junior Grand Prix final. Sorry. Now, this Junior Grand Prix final is quite notable because it was kind of the Junior Grand Prix final where she was competing against some of the top Russian juniors at the time. And of course, the whole big thing was the Russians versus the US. How was she going to do this, etc.? How was she going to do this, right? How was she going to do this? And Alyssa there was first in the short program, but she fell to second in the free skate for second overall. And some of these names, Kamila Valieva, Daria Usasheva, Ksenia Sinitsina, etc., were some of the biggest Russian juniors at the time. And so the fact that she placed second and almost could have placed first in her debut here, in her competition here, was extremely, extremely notable. Again, next big thing, that was the kind of the kind of the thought here. The next big thing is Miss Alyssa. Oh my gosh, I cannot stop coughing. Yeah, the next big thing was Alyssa, and um yeah, she did under rotate a both two quad lutz attempts and a triple axel attempt and fell on a triple axel attempt. But still, like, the fact that she did those mistakes and still placed second overall was still crazy, right? Still crazy. Okay, and then she goes to US Nationals later that year and she defends her title, which is crazy. She was second in the short program at US Senior Nationals and then first in the free skate. And that free skate had a quad lutz and two triple axels on it. Some negative GOEs on there, but still crazy. At the age of 14, I'm quoting this from Wikipedia again. At the age of 14, Liu's win made her the youngest two-time women's US champion and the first woman in 7 years to win back-to-back US championships. Crazy. Um, yeah, at 14 years old, she's already a two-time US national champion in seniors, not in juniors, in seniors. And again, there was some criticism at the time with her there was some criticism at the time with her artistic side. The technical side was developing. In 2019 at Nationals, she was only doing two triple axels. Now in 2020 at Nationals, she's doing a quad lutz, right? Stuff like that kind of proved to the world that she is, yeah, someone to watch out for. But it did give her some criticism because, again, the artistic score, a lot of people saying that she should develop her artistic side more, etc. She's not allowed to go to senior competition, so she goes to juniors, and she placed third there. Um, she was fourth in the show program, and then third in the free skate for third overall. At Junior World. So she was third overall. She placed behind Kamila Valieva and Daria Ustasheva, but still a really notable result. And the scores were, pretty close. And so again, a lot of people saw Alyssa as kind of the main threat to the Russians and saying in a few years she could be the Olympic champion if she's able to keep these technical abilities. Okay, now let's talk. Let's talk, guys. Let's talk because in 2020 we had a little thing called COVID, and um a lot of competitions were really not it right, really not there. Did not happen at all. And so she ended up competing at a few domestic senior competitions. And this was a difficult season for Alyssa because of a growth spurt, right? She had a growth spurt, and of course, when you have a growth spurt, you grow taller, your balance kind of gets thrown off, your center of gravity gets thrown off, and you just don't skate. You don't skate exactly like how you want for sure, right? The jumps get thrown off, and she kind of ends up losing her biggest jumps, the triple axel and the quad lutz that were kind of the biggest jumps that were winning her these competitions were the quad lutz and the two triple axels that she would perform in the free skate. Those jumps were allowing her to really, really, really succeed in these competitions at U.S. Senior Nationals. But she got a right hip injury at the time. She didn't skate for a whole month, etc. Again, I'm quoting this all off from Wikipedia. But she goes to U.S. Nationals in 2021. She's coming in as a two-time U.S. national champion, right? She's coming in as a two-time national champion, and obviously would love a third title. A third title defense would be amazing for Alyssa. She goes to these competitions with that success, but also a lot of doubt. The season hasn't gone that well. She was injured. She had the growth spurt. She lost her biggest jumps. She was second in the show program with a clean skate. In the free skate at that event, she did double, I think, a flip. um had a couple under rotations, and she placed fourth overall, which fourth place at the age of 15 at a US Nationals is still super duper impressive. It just wasn't what people wanted. And I vividly remember the title of the NBC video was Alysa Liu derailed in free skate. Like that kind of negative, derailed kind of language. And a lot of people, I do, you know, people in the deep figure skating community are a lot more positive. People in the general skating community who like watch every so often are a lot more judgmental. Oh my god, I cannot talk. People in the general figure skating community, I feel like, are a lot more judgmental. Um, and there was this thought that, oh, this is it. This is over. It's over for Alyssa. La 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 la. Right? And I think this all kind of builds up to the final theme that I'll analyze later is that she kind of stopped caring about what other people said. And she said a lot about kind of mental health and social media and everything. But just at this time, I feel like this is when there was a lot of hate against Alyssa for not living up to the three-time US champion kind of thing, not having her jumps anymore, having the growth spurt, etc. And so this fourth place at the 2021 US Nationals was probably from the viewer's perspective, probably one of the lower parts of her career overall. Not just not the best competition, just not a great moment. Drew a lot of criticism for this result. Wrongful criticism, of course, because you should not be hating people for that kind of thing. Okay, but new season, new me, right? New season, new me. And in 2021 to the 2022 season, it's the Olympic season. It's the Beijing Olympic season. And Alyssa is actually old enough, just old enough to compete on senior nationals. She ends up moving to Italy for a little bit to compete or to train in Italy. Um, she ends up working with Lorenzo Magri in Italy, stuff like that. Right. Okay. Now, Alyssa, this season, in this Olympic season, has chosen two programs, or a lot of people think that she didn't probably choose the programs, but her short program was Don Quixote by Leon Minkus, which is a very fun classical program, very fun, kind of upbeat, kind of lighthearted. It's a good program. It's a nice program. Her free skate is Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto Number 1 by Joshua Bell, performed by Joshua Bell. And again, very classical, very elegant, very, not very different from the Leve and Donna Summer of the present Alyssa Liu, right? She was skating here to some very, very nice classical music. They were really trying to showcase her lines and her grace and her elegance and some solid skating skills, stuff like that, right? Stuff like that. And it did work, right? You could feel a new sense of maturity in her skating. Not yet an art, like a master artist. Not no skaters I feel like are complete master artists until like they develop for years and years and years, right? But I feel like a lot of people at the time like saw these programs as a big improvement in her artistic side. And so again, a little less emphasis on the technical side now, and a little more emphasis on the artistic side. She goes to Cranberry Cup and she wins there. She tries the triple axel but falls according to Wikipedia, but she still wins. Oh well. They sent her to Lombardia Trophy and she won there, and she got some new personal bests there, and those remained her personal bests for a very, very, very long time. Okay, now Alyssa is sent on her first big mission, maybe. Mission, perhaps. I don't know if that's really the right word. But basically, Karen Chen and Brady Tennell at the 2021 Worlds had earned 3 spots for the US, but they needed a US woman to go confirm one at Nebelhorn Trophy. And US Figure Skating sends Alyssa to get the third spot by placing in the top 6 at Nebelhorn Trophy. Alyssa ends up winning, and I believe this is the competition where she gets a big trophy and then she drops the cap of it, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" I think that's where that famous clip comes from. I believe so. And so, yay, the US has 3 spots. And it feels at this point pretty likely that Alyssa will get one of those 3 spots. And you have to think about the US women at around this time. The big players are really Alyssa, Mariah Bell, Karen Chen, Amber Glenn, um, is that really it? And Brady Tennell is unfortunately injured this season. And so Alyssa was pretty much in a good, pretty prime spot to get a spot at on the Olympic team. She goes to her Grand Prix, her first 2 Grand Prix, Skate Canada. I remember this competition. She was 5th there, and then at NHK Trophy, she was 4th place. And, pretty solid results. I think a lot of the, I don't know, excitement this it changed, right? The excitement from her junior days where she was landing triple axels and quad lutzes everywhere, all over the place, kind of changed. And so she was still trying the triple axel, but it was often, under rotated and, might have fallen on it, etc. And yeah, that was it. And good for her. Placing 5th and 4th at your first 2 Grand Prix is a great result. It's a really great result. But it was different from the Alyssa back then, where people saw her and said she's gonna dominate, right? She is gonna win everything in her path once it's the Olympic season, when she's old enough, when she gets the quads, or because she'll maintain the quads, because she'll maintain the triple axel, etc. It was a lot different. It was really a lot different from that. Um, yeah. Okay, I feel like I should probably hurry up because I'm gonna talk too long about her story. She moves to her dad makes her move to Colorado to train and move to Colorado. To move to train at Colorado, sorry. And this is such a key result. I remember the reactions at the time were very confused. Why move coaches in the middle of the season, especially because it's Olympic season? Why, right? And so she moves to Colorado to train in Colorado instead, with Drew Meekins. Okay, So yeah, and people think like, why? Okay, then she goes to U.S. Nationals, right? She goes to U.S. Nationals in 2022 to get a spot on the Olympic team. She gets third in the short program, but then she gets COVID and she has to petition to be on the Olympic team, and they accepted it because she was really the top U.S. woman. And yeah, she makes it on the Olympic team and she's going to Beijing. A little side note here, but still really important. Alyssa is kind of, I don't know, she's targeted by spies. And this is a big thing. And this has to do a lot with politics and everything. But her father was involved with, anti government operations in China back when he lived in China. And basically, there was a big news that she was kind of being spied on, or their family was being spied on, that Alyssa would not be safe in Beijing, etc. But she still decided to go anyway. And she got protection from the US government and everything, to make sure that she was going to be fine. Okay. She does not get to she does not get selected to compete in the team event at the Olympics, but Alyssa goes to the women's individual event and she places 6th overall. She places 6th overall. And her two programs were pretty clean, and she even gets an exhibition gala where she does Loco by ITZY, and it was a pretty popular program. But yeah, her first Olympics, she was 6th place, 7th place at the time before Camila Valieva's result was invalidated, but she was 6th place overall. And again, kind of different from the Alyssa of like, back in 2019, where people thought, again, you're gonna do this, she's gonna win this, she's gonna win this. So much media pressure. And here it was pretty low key, and she was very successful. um, yeah, she ends up going to Worlds that season. She places third at Worlds, at 2022 Worlds. That was the first medal since 2016. Ashley Wagner, she gets the bronze there, and a lot of people thought, hey, good for Alyssa. She's very young at the age of 16, already getting a world medal is super duper impressive. You know, maybe a rocky start to her senior career in the beginning of the season, but this is a promising start. Third place at your first senior world is a really promising start, and that was the general consensus for a while. Good for her, stuff like that. And then she announces a retirement at the age of 16. It was a couple of like weeks later, like 2 weeks later or something, but she announces that she will retire, and it's kind of a shocking thing. And a lot of people at the time kind of saw her she talks about it on Instagram. She announces retirement on Instagram through a post. um And I remember the general consensus at the time being like, this is such a teenage post. Like the writing in it was kind of like, yeah, I'm done with skating. I'm happy with my goals. I want to move on. And obviously I respect that decision so much, and I respected everything and I understood. But a lot of people saw it as like, oh, that's really, unfortunate for us. The US really had a star in her, stuff like that. And, Alyssa kind of just seemed like she had moved on, and that truly was the case here. And it was totally understandable because she had never really lived life outside figure skating. Everything in her life had always been about figure skating. And so this changed, right? This changed everything, and it was shocking, but understandable. And a lot of people saw it as like, oh well, there's still other women coming up. Brady Tennell is coming back. Emery Glant, Isabel Lovito at the time as well. And a lot of people thought, okay, well, good for her, good for Alyssa, etc. And then we don't really hear a lot about Alyssa for 2 whole years. In fact, I remember a picture coming out actually of, I believe it was 2023 US Nationals. And that picture was of Alyssa with Mariah Bell and Karen Chen, if I remember correctly. But Alyssa had dyed her hair, she got piercings, she looked completely different. And then this picture was posted on Reddit, this like reunion picture between the Olympic team members, them three, Alyssa, Mariah, and Karen, if I remember correctly. But I remember the thoughts being like, whoa, I don't even recognize Alyssa. Like, wow, like it looks like she's living a great life. I hope she's really happy, stuff like that. And that was kind of it. That was kind of it. And I honestly didn't think about Alyssa for a while. Really, the focus really was on Isabel and on Amber and all these new stars coming up as well. And Alyssa went to college. I believe she goes to UCLA, which is a great school, obviously, for psychology, I believe it is. And no one really heard anything. I think she deleted her social media or she deactivated social media for a while and she wasn't really active on there. People just assumed that, like she said in her retirement post, like she was just going to move on with her life, live a more normal life without figure skating, etc. That was it. That was supposed to be it. That was supposed to be it. That was supposed to be it, right? Oh, it's not? It's not. Because in 2024, and I remember this so clearly. I remember waking up and seeing it on Reddit. Let me think. Let me get some water actually. Let me get some water. Okay, I'm back, guys. But basically, in the early part of 2024, Alyssa kind of posted a teaser video of like this, hey, big news is happening soon. So, she was back on Instagram and it said big news is happening soon. Or something along those lines. And a lot of people were confused. Not confused, but in speculation. We were all speculating. I wonder what her big news is. Maybe she's moving, maybe she's gonna start coaching, maybe she's gonna do this, maybe she's gonna do that, etc. Like there was a lot of speculation, but in general, the thought was like, what if she's coming back, right? Because Alyssa had retired at 16, which is even in women's figure skating, where the sport is constantly, pushing for young women who can do incredible technical feats and everything, and who get injured and retire at such a young age in their early 20s. Even in women's figure skating, 16 was so incredibly young to retire. But Alyssa was like super young at this point. In 2024, she would have only been 18, 19, right? And so she comes back. She decides to post a video and says, I'm coming back. Like, hey, I'm back. Like, I'm going to start skating again, etc. And the story that NBC keeps on pushing, I feel like, is that she didn't even know where her skates were, etc. She went to Mount Everest and she went skiing and she rediscovered that she likes skating again. She wanted to skate again, right? She wanted to skate again. She wanted to find her love, her own love for skating again, and put skating on, I don't know, put skating on a new perspective for herself. Put a new perspective on skating, sorry. Put a new view on skating, right? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it was a new mindset around figure skating, and people really thought, okay, go for it, go girl, like good for you, right? Go girl, good for you. It seemed like this is a new era. Maybe this is a new star. Not a new star, but it's a good comeback to have. Maybe inspiring. It's gonna be good for her, etc. Um, Definitely a lot of excitement around Alyssa, obviously, but then a lot of people who maybe are, more on the realistic side said like, oh, it's going to be very difficult coming back to the sport. The competitive field is completely different now. So many new skaters, so much new competition. It's going to be hard to reestablish herself with the judges, etc. Right? And I feel like that's totally. It wasn't totally like out of the box saying that like it's hard to come back. Right? We've seen this so many times where skaters come back and it's hard to come back. And after 2 years off, we haven't even seen her skate everything. People were unsure. And she trains throughout the summer. We don't really hear a lot of news, but we see her skate at first at the 2024 Budapest Trophy where she wins, where she does get a couple of under rotations in her jumps, but she still wins at the Budapest Trophy. And again, not the highest score at all. I think it's like 180 something. And, again, good for her. Good for you, Alyssa. Good for you. Okay, then we go to the Grand Prix. She gets 2 Grand Prix this season. She was 6th at Canada, 4th at NHK Trophy. Again, good for you. Good for you. Good for you. Not amazing. She wasn't, a lot of people, I feel like this fell into people's expectations, these results at the time, being like, okay, yeah, it's going to be hard for her to come back, which is, a realistic thought to have. But still good. Still pretty good. Still pretty good. She goes to Golden Spin of Zagreb. She wins the gold there. And then she goes to U.S. Nationals. Of course, she's been a two-time national champion. And she places first at these U.S. Nationals in the short program. And she places second in the free skate with a very small, tiny spin mistake at the end of her free skate. And she places second overall, Amber Glenn, second behind overall with Amber Glenn in front of her. But yeah, very good for Alyssa. She goes to four continents and she places fourth in both segments for fourth overall. Still pretty good. Had a couple mistakes, popped a Salcal, but still pretty good. And then she goes to Worlds in Boston. She's named to the Olympic team in Boston. And remember, this is a huge feat already, being named to the world team in your first season back after you haven't competed in, about 2.5 years is super duper impressive, genuinely. And so this was crazy though. Alyssa was first in the short program at Worlds, above, Kari Sakamoto and Amber Glenn and Isabel Levito, and all these big names that had been dominating for the years that she was gone, and she was first in the short. And at the time, I was like, oh, good for her, good for Alyssa. I didn't necessarily think that after the free skate, she would, remain in first, because I was like, okay, she's had struggles with underrotations this season, but this free skate just came out of nowhere. It blew the roof off the building. It blew the roof off of TD Garden. Kaori Sakamoto was second place. Alyssa was in first place. And this was the first world title since Kimi Meissner in 2006 for the Americans. And it just seemed crazy, right? She hadn't won any Grand Prix medal. She hadn't won the Four Continents medal. She comes to Worlds and she becomes world champion. 2025 world champion Alyssa. And I remember watching the skate and being like, did Alyssa just win Worlds? Did Alyssa just win Worlds? And I literally remember it, being so shocked. Did Alysa Liu just win Worlds right in front of my face? Not in front of my face, but on the TV, I was in front of my face. I was so shocked. And then she goes to uh, World Team Trophy and she wins there, right? You have to kind of talk about her program this season as well. Promised by Leve for her strip program. A lot of people read through the kind of the symbolism for her, and this song is kind of about being unable to truly let go of something, and then kind of, wanting to make that promise to let go of something, but never being able to let go of something. And a lot of people kind of connected that lyric to her journey with figure skating as well. Her free skate was Donna Summer and MacArthur Park, and a lot of people it was just a fun skate. It's honestly just fun. Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about this season. Going into this season, she was the world champ. She had a lot of pressure comes with being world champion. A lot of people expect, lots of big success. She goes to her first competition, which is Lombardia Trophy, and she places fourth in this competition. Her short program was "This Is How It Feels" by Leve and David, but because of David's crime, which is incredibly disturbing and heinous, incredibly disturbing, she decided to switch her music back to Promise by Leve. Her free skate, which is the Olympic season free skate, so this is major, right? A lot of people hype a lot of people, skaters, Olympic season free skate. Her free skate was a Lady Gaga free skate, and I remember a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people were like, this is not really the energy we were feeling. I personally didn't love it. I didn't think it was bad, but it wasn't like as epic, I feel like, as MacArthur Park was. I showed it to my friend who is a super big Lady Gaga fan, and she didn't really like it either. She didn't really like the music cuts. The skating was pretty solid. The technical elements were a little, off at this competition, but still good, still good. Okay. And so she was fourth at this Challenger Series competition, and maybe threw a little doubt on her, right? So she goes back to Leve. She goes back to Donna Summer at Cup of China. She ends up taking the silver, behind teammate Amber Glenn. That's what Wikipedia says. And then she goes to Skate America and she places first there. And she goes to Grand Prix final and she places third in the short, second in the free, but first overall. This is something important, right? Because Grand Prix final is the hugest indicator of the Olympic results. Because to qualify for Grand Prix final, you have to have done really well at your Grand Prix events. which means you're among the best in the world. And Alyssa wins the gold at Grand Prix final, not having two perfect programs that were the best programs, but skating the best of the night. She skated well enough. She skated good enough, right? Right? She skated good enough because figure skating is not about being the best skater. Figure skating results are based on who is the best skater on the day of competition. And we will see this as well. Okay, so good for Alyssa winning Grand Prix final, which is major. Alyssa also goes to U.S. Nationals in 2026, in 2 months ago, right? And she wins the silver there. Her short program was Leve, and she got a huge score. Her free skate was a new Lady Gaga program, which she performed at US Nationals. And this one was good, but she even switched back to MacArthur Park. And because she wins the silver at US Nationals in the Olympic season, she gets to go to the Olympics. Yay! In the team event, she does only the short program, and she helps win some points for Team USA. And yeah, it helps Team USA win the gold. And then you go into the women's event, the women's singles event, the last Olympic event. She was third in the short program. It was fun. It was elegant. It was beautiful. It was such a moment. The free skate was pretty much completely clean, just two errors on unclear edges on the flips, but she gets to be the Olympic champion. Some mistakes in the short and the free skate from both of her competitors allow her to really win this free skate, and she becomes the 2026 Olympic champion. And I will forever remember when I saw the results. I was so happy. I was in my math class and I literally jumped up and started dancing because I was so dang happy. And I was talking to everybody and their mother about this. I was so happy. First American woman to win since Sarah Hughes in 2002. First medalist since 2006 with Sasha Cohen. It was major. Such a major result. And it was so much fun. And then she had her exhibition to Stateside by Pink Panthers and Zara Larson, which is big. And now we come to the present day where Alyssa is just seemed like the biggest celebrity right now, the biggest celebrity to come out so far of this year. From her style to her attitude to her, perspective on skating to her everything, right? To everything about her. Everything about her has become part of her celebrity status, it feels like. But yeah, that's the story of Alyssa. But I want to talk about the analysis. I want to analyze Alyssa. And kind of how the world has perceived Alyssa. I feel like Alyssa, the main thing a lot of people have said about Alyssa is that she challenges norms, because figure skating is a very conservative sport, right? We've heard that for years, that figure skating is a very stifling sport where everyone has to skate this way, everyone has to look this way. They want skaters to do this, they want skaters to do that. And Alyssa, I think for a lot of people, including myself, kind of symbolized a big resistance against that. Her hair, her outfits, her music choices are, maybe a little more different than other skiers, getting to something so contemporary as Leve. You know, things like that kind of help challenge the norm around figure skating, that figure skaters must be this way or that way or this way or that way. And I think that was such a, I don't know, very, I don't know, stifling traditional sport for sure. But she really helped challenge the norms and everything, really helped challenge the norms of figure skating. And kind of just in society in general, because in this world today, like, she is just a role model, I feel like, for so many people, to be alternative, as a lot of people call her style, to be different, to look how you want, to skate to whatever music you want, to do whatever you want. And the story, I feel like a lot of people buy into. But yeah, it's just a big challenger of norms. And especially probably the biggest norm that she challenged was that, you can't do a comeback. You're never gonna be able to make a comeback, right? Not that that was a norm, but I don't know, kind of the idea that comebacks are super duper difficult, that skaters never really get anything out of them, I feel like are is kind of common. And this challenged everything, right? She went from, announcing her that she would return, uh, and then a little less than 2 years later, she won the Olympic title. And that's so impressive. And, she went from the skater who was scoring in the 180s to the 220s, right? She went from the skater who was like, oh, good for you for coming back, to now the skater who is the Olympic champion. She's the Olympic champion, and she's a world champion. She's a Grand Prix final champion, right? And that was so impressive as well. What else do I want to talk about? And kind of you have to think about the trajectory, right? When she was 13 years old, when she was 14 years old, she was the next big thing. She was doing triple axels and quads, but she said herself that it wasn't kind of the skating that she wanted. It was kind of the skating that other people told her to do. And now in this present day in 2026, we have skating that Alyssa truly wants to skate, and she's getting better results. And she became the Olympic champion, and she became the world champion because she started doing things that she actually did love. She started skating to music that she loved. She started skating for herself. She started skating out of the love for the sport, things like that. I don't know. Yeah. Is this a new era of figure skating? I truly think it kind of is. I don't know why, but I truly think that this is kind of a new era of skating where I don't know. I really hope figure skating. I don't want to like give a suggestion that could be wrong. Of course, I don't know. Not could be wrong, but I don't want to put my eggs in one basket. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just feel like if a skater like Alyssa can become a celebrity and have such a big impact on getting people to watch the sport. Her videos of her skating have been viewed millions of times, and it's just like wow. Like, I don't remember the last time when skating was this big, right? Maybe 2018 with Yuzu Hanyu, but I don't remember skating being this big in America, at least, right? And it's just like, can it hold on? Can the sport hold on to this popularity? And Alyssa has announced already that she'll be competing for the next 4 years, or at least at the next Olympics. So she wants to compete at the next Olympics, and so we'll definitely have to see where everything falls into place with that, and see if she can hang she and all the other skaters can really hold on to this popularity that the Olympics and the figure skating and all the stories that have come out of it has given the sport. And it's just like this unprecedented era of figure skating where figure skating has been, I don't know, placed into the American pop culture, the social consciousness, the popular consciousness of culture and who we value as celebrities and role models. And Alyssa is now part of that, and I love that, and I honestly do. Um, Obviously, there's been some negative sides. She posted recently about someone following her to her car, which is terrible and not okay, and an example of how celebrity culture is so toxic and so degrading to some people, especially to the celebrities themselves, right? And how negative it can have an impact on them and things like that. And definitely don't want her life to be endangered or anything like it kind of has. Like she's been recognized everywhere. Stuff like that has really negatively impacted not just her, but so many celebrities in the past. And, stalkers and everything have been extremely like disturbing, of course. But I don't know. I just find Alyssa's story a very interesting story, a very unprecedented story, a very unique story. Again, kind of going back to I remember like when I first started watching skating and everyone was talking about how Alyssa in her junior career, Alyssa when she was younger, quads, triple axels, and everything. And now I got to see like, her first retirement, and then I got to see this whole comeback happen. And I don't know. I feel like I'm part of it, and I feel like a ton of other people definitely feel like they're part of it too. I don't know. That's kind of all my yapping, I guess, for this episode. I know I talked a lot, and I kind of thought I would spend a lot more time analyzing everything, but everyone, oh well. I just feel like there's so much you can learn from Alyssa Liu, and I feel like I probably should have spent more time writing down more notes to talk about, really. But oh well. But thank you so much for listening to this episode of a Teen Talks Game podcast. My name is Van Gogh. I hope you enjoyed my rant about Alyssa Liu, her story, what can we learn from her story? What can we analyze and what it means for the sport of figure skating? Next week, I'll talk to you about Junior Worlds and my thoughts on the only junior competition that I ever reviewed the whole year. But yeah, thank you so much, and I will see you. I will hear from you. You will listen to me next week. Okay, bye bye.